Good afternoon, everybody. I am so happy to see a full room here and so much interest for this topic of CCS, CCU, and carbon removals. My name is Hans Bolscher. I have the pleasure of presenting this meeting and taking you through this meeting. This meeting is about presenting the results of the open public consultation on the strategy that the Commission is going to develop later this year. And as you all know, when the Commission starts with a new strategy, there is an OPC to give all the stakeholders all around Europe a chance to give their opinion. I've managed quite a few of these OPCs, and to be honest, the quality of the feedback we got in this OPC was excellent. A lot of well-pronounced arguments, good papers. The numbers of the questionnaire were not enormous, whereas the numbers of the papers and of the people online now and the people in the room is very large. So there is a great interest in this topic. Before I go to the agenda, I want to say that there are three possibilities for an emergency exit. There is nothing planned, no trainings planned, so there is 1, 2, and 3 as options for an emergency exit. The whole meeting will be recorded because this meeting is the last part of the OPC where you have the chance, after all your written comments, to say and explain once more towards the Commission what you think a CCS, CCU or carbon removal strategy should include. And that's what this meeting is all about. Next slide, please. So as for the agenda, there will be a formal welcome by the Commission, by Edith Hofer. We'll have another few minutes. Then there will be the presentation of the results. That will be by Barbara Breitschow from Fraunhofer, Trinomics from the Netherlands, and Fraunhofer from Germany. We conducted this work for the Commission. Barbara will present the results both from the questionnaires and for the papers that you have sent in, because it's important that you get a feel of what we have collected. And then there is ample time for you to respond and give your opinion, ask questions, whatever you want. We have more than an hour for that, but we are a lot of people. And we also are a lot of people online. And currently it's over 200 online, and it's probably going to increase. We have 500 applications online. So we cannot have all the people online talking in the meeting. That would simply be too much. But you can ask all your questions online, and there will be people monitoring the chat, and so your questions will be addressed. Depending on the number, maybe not everything, but we will try to do it as good as possible. Can I ask everybody to switch off their phones or put them in soft modus so that we're not too much interrupted? After your discussion, there will be a roundup by DG Klima. As this meeting is a co-production between DG Energy and DG Klima, as you all know, carbon removals is partly of the DG Klima agenda. I think I have said what needed to be said for the starting of the meeting. If you in the room want to speak, just raise your hand. I will monitor. If you're too long, I will cut you off. Sorry for that, but we have a lot of people in the room. And for the presentation from both from Edith and from Barbara, I suggest let's not interrupt them, let them speak unless something is completely unclear, but otherwise we can have the questions at the end. That works better than interrupting during the presentation. All clear? All set? Thank you very much. Edith, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hans. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here with you at the moment. And for the colleagues here in the room, just a quick information. You'll get the slides also on the screen. We're just working on that. We have some IT hiccup, but we're working on it, so it's coming. I'm actually very happy to see so many of you here in the room, but also online, even more people. So it's great to see so much enthusiasm and interest on CCUS, carbon capture and storage, or as we talk now about the industrial carbon management file. And we are even happier to have seen...
Apparently the mic online doesn't work, so
Oh.
put this here so now everybody can hear you.
Okay, we have a bit of an IT problem, I see.
Try again, I'll see, check with
Do colleagues hear me online? I can also talk louder. I can also switch off the microphone here and shout.
Works. Okay, now it works. Go ahead.
I've worked long enough in a university as a lecturer, so I can shout a whole auditorium, so that's fine. Anyway, so actually then happy to see so many people online. How do we have more than 200 people online, so that's great. And it's actually also, and as Hans already said, it was amazing how much input we actually got for this public consultation. So it's actually very important for us to be here today to finish this public consultation with this workshop, because as many of you know, and I think most of you have been involved in work of the Commission, public consultation is an important milestone when we prepare a strategy, and in this case, a strong, resilient European industrial carbon management strategy. It's a mouthful, but that's what we are going to prepare. As you know, emission reductions is one of the highest priorities of the EU when it comes to climate policy. And on the one hand, we are working more here on the development of renewables and on reducing energy consumption through energy efficiency tools. These are our key measures for energy policy, but carbon management will be also necessary if we want to achieve the carbon neutrality by 2050. The Commission's modeling shows very clearly that carbon capture and storage, so CCS, carbon capture and utilization, CCU, and carbon removal has an important role to play in decarbonizing our energy. And this is actually confirmed by many other studies all across the world, being it from the International Energy Agency, being it from the IPCC, so the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IRENA, so many other institutions also show how important these three technologies will be for carbon neutrality. Companies, of course, are starting using these technologies, and of course, in order to do that, you need access to a dedicated and robust EU-wide infrastructure to transport the carbon, but also to store this carbon permanently. And as this infrastructure does not exist today, we would like in the Commission to optimize its deployment to the best we can. While the momentum for deploying carbon management in industry has recently increased, and I think we see this also by the interest in this public consultation, we still lack in the EU a dedicated regulatory environment to deal with these storage and transport of CO2. It is an emerging market, and therefore we are also doing our best. We try to find our best ways. I'm just looking on the side of the screen. The best ways to help. No, it's fine. So the main aim for our industrial carbon management strategy will be to come up with solutions to establish a market for CO2 capture, transport, and utilization, and storage, of course. And to achieve this objective, we need first to map the regulatory gaps and then draw up a comprehensive policy approach, and not only on CO2 infrastructure. Yeah, no slides moving forward, colleagues, because I don't have any slides. Sorry. So to do it the best way possible, of course, we need to see what's out there, what is your experience, what is the stakeholder wisdom, and this is also where we need your experience and your best practices. We started consulting or building up the strategy already with the CCUS forum in 2021, the first forum of this kind 2 years ago. But we also, as you know, have done this public consultation in order to ask more than 30 expert questions, and also have this call for evidence, again, to reach out as much as possible to the stakeholders, to the widest range of stakeholders, to get most input which we can have. And we've received almost 300 contributions to these publications and over 200 contributions to the call for evidence from all fields of the spectrum, so from companies, business associations, citizens, but also NGOs. So we see that there is a lot of interest, and the issue is becoming quite popular again, so we are happy to develop the strategy further in the coming weeks and months. Nothing else to say then than to thank you all for the input you have provided us, and also looking forward to the input you are going to give us today, which will be all taken into account in preparing the industrial carbon management strategy. I also would like to invite you to the CCUS forum, which will take place on the 27th and 28th of November in Aalborg in Denmark, and it's also available to follow online again, as we have done last year. So with that, the only thing which remains for me is to say thank you also to the colleagues in Trenomics and the Fraunhofer Institute to collect and analyze all these contributions, which was quite an immense work, I would assume. And therefore, I'll give back the floor to the colleagues. And Hans, the floor is yours, or directly to Barbara, up to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edith. Now I have to move to another microphone. Yeah, we have a little technical problem that the conference, the in-room mic is not connected to the online mic, so the online sound goes through my my laptop. Sorry for that, but we'll manage. Yes, thanks very much, Edith. And it's clear that this that CCS, CCU, and carbon removals are getting into a new phase. And Barbara is going to tell us what you think about that, how important it is, and how what the role of the Commission in that could or should be. Over to you, Barbara.
Thank you very much, Hans, for this introduction. I have the pleasure to present now the results of the open public consultation. Oh, sorry. Of course. There is the results from the questionnaire, but also from your papers you handed in. It maybe you should note that there are about 280 responses of the questionnaire, but keep in mind that these responses are not representative for the whole society or economy, but they are opinions of stakeholders that have a high interest in that topic. So when you go look at the countries that participated, or the people coming from those countries, we see that there's a kind of imbalance. We see a lot of participants from Belgium, mainly because of the representations here in Belgium, in Brussels. We also have a high share of participants from Germany, but also from France and many other European countries. Good. Let's go on to the size of the organizations, or the person that participated in the survey. Well, we see that there's again a dominance of the large organizations, but that's not surprisingly, since we have large industries and large associations that have participated in that questionnaire. If we have a look at the familiarity of these respondents or with the technologies, we see that most of them know this technology very, very well. We have structured now our presentation of the results into 3 parts. One, we look at the relevance of CCS, CCU, and industrial carbon removals for the climate goal. Yes. Then we look at the role of the European Commission, the EU, that it can play in promoting and these technologies. And then third, we look at the challenges and policies. So let's start with the relevance of these technologies. From the participants' perspective, all technologies are about equally relevant. This somehow reflects a certain request to be technology neutral in that strategy. But this statement, this result, this finding does not demonstrate or prove that the actual contribution of this contribution to carbon reduction is the same for all technologies. So be aware, there is an opinion that all those technologies should be used, but their contribution to carbon reduction in the atmosphere might differ significantly. Second, were the question, what are the reasons why should CCS and CCU be applied? Well, they are manifold, but there's a slight focus on the application of CC2, of carbon as a feedstock, and also applications in hard-to-abate sectors, industry. This is also mentioned in the papers and the open statements, that these are the key reasons, but there are many other reasons as well, and people consider them almost equally important, such like hydrogen production, power generation, heat and power, or the emissions from heat and power plants, generating heat and power, or emissions from generating negative emissions. Well. Then we looked at the options of energy supply in which CCS should play a role. And there was a clear message that it should play a role in waste incineration and in sustainable biomass-fired power plants. But also gas-fired power plants could be an application of this technology. Regarding the question whether it should be mandatory for energy-to-waste plants to use CCS, the message is clear. A majority says, yes, it should be mandatory. But about 40% of all respondents did not give an answer on this question, so they were indifferent. Then the next question asks about the negative effects that they expect from using CCS or CCU. And many do not expect negative effects from using these technologies. Few express concerns regarding the increasing fossil fuel use or a low decarbonization in industrial processes. But overall, the tendency is, no, we do not expect really negative effects from these technologies. Then, next question focused on the source of CO2 as used as a feedstock. And they are saying, well, the main sources should be from process emissions or from emissions from using bioenergy. Emissions from or getting CO2 from the atmosphere or from oil and gas combustion were less agreed or less favored, put it that way. Another question looked at the priority that should be given to the CO2 use for the production in, for example, agriculture, in the chemical industry, etc. And we find here a clear tendency to say, that the stakeholders view long-term CO2 binding products as a key application for that, a key use. But also plastics, chemicals might be important, or synthetic fuels. But the trend or tendency is more focusing on long-term binding products. And the next slide, we have we ask for the goals for achieving with this CO2 capture solutions. And the majority, and this is again a clear message, say, well, we do agree that industrial CO2 capture is essential, but also natural solutions should be used or applied. So there's a clear tendency, a clear message, but some have concerns that natural carbon removals should not be forgotten and used as possible, as far as possible. Then we looked at type of carbon removal in industry that should be prioritized. What technology should be used for that? And it seems that BECS is the most preferred option for that, followed by enhancement of mineralization processes. But biochar, well, or other types, or DAX is somehow regarded as indifferent, maybe a little bit. Some agree it's very important, some they may be or maybe not. Opinions regarding the environmental risks of BECS are, clear. Many see that there are some risks associated with BECS, but nevertheless, it should be applied. So there might be barriers to the implementation, but the majority think it is needed and should be applied. There's a high agreement with many types of policies to support industrial carbon removal. But EU funding and national measures are the most supported, while, for example, taxes are less strongly supported. Regarding the barriers, overall respondents see many barriers. But one key barrier seems to be the high capital expenditures and the lack of long-term policies. The option other has also received quite some replies. And in this option, they stressed again the lack of long-term policy and capital expenditures and missing of viable business cases. So, but overall, there are many, many barriers, and some maybe are a little bit stronger than the others and need to be addressed by policies. And so we come to the role of the European Commission with respect to CCS, CCU, and industrial carbon removal. One role we thought about was to ask whether the Commission should be more engaged in a better communication of the advantages and risks of these technologies. And of course, the majority agrees on that. It's important to clearly communicate risks and advantages of this technology. A second question was, what about the role of the support for the deployment? Should the Commission support the deployment more? And again, we get a clear message. Support of the deployment is considered as necessary and important. With respect to policy initiatives at the EU level, there are two types of policies or two areas of effort needed. One is to kind of coordinate the infrastructure planning and permitting this through guidelines. So they wish guidelines for infrastructure planning and permitting. And second, they need they suggest to have a comprehensive action plan on CCS, CCU, and carbon removal. So this is considered as most urgent. But also the integrated network planning at the EU level, again, this networking infrastructure is important, need to be considered. And that's a role the EU, the Commission should take a leading role in that. Then regarding the necessity to cooperate between the European Commission and the business, again, the answer is very clear. Many consider this cooperation as very necessary. Only a few think it's maybe not that needed. With respect to collaborations at a global level, international level, so cross-border, there are, especially for storage, but the partner regions or partner countries are more located in the northern part of Europe. So here we depicted the sea regions, and countries around the North Sea are the most mentioned as potential partners, international partners. But also countries in the Mediterranean area or in the Baltic Sea or even the Black Sea have been mentioned a few times. Again, the general question whether the Commission should support more the global deployment of these technologies. So the message is, again, very clear. The high share support that it is a global issue and the Commission should support this globally. Regarding the role of the Commission in public information of this technology, they consider they think the Commission should take over responsibility. They should be responsible to clearly communicate, again, the advantages and the risk of this technology, how to proceed, or publish roadmaps and strategies. Another share of the respondents think member states should be also responsible and be engaged in this communication as well. While they think there's not enough information available and local authorities are not that suited to communicate and inform the public on this. It's more considered as a global topic, an international topic, and that's reflected in these answers as well. Regarding the role of the European Commission with respect to social engagement, again there, the stakeholders see the EC as a responsible partner. They should engage and support social engagement. It's important to raise awareness and to achieve acceptance of these technologies. Now we come to the challenges of the policies, and there was one question asked for the focus of the public funds for deploying CO2 transport infrastructure. And the answers were that there is full support needed. The public funds should fully support along the complete value chain the deployment of this infrastructure. Others say, well, we only need a kickstart of the market. So they may be a little bit reluctant to have and fear maybe a too strong involvement and intervention of the Commission or the state in the market. With respect to the engagement, investment into transport infrastructure, the stakeholders prefer that especially member states or state-controlled firms or private firms should invest in those infrastructures, and less facilities that capture CO2 or that operate storages. Regarding the recovery payback of the investment in CO2 infrastructure, the higher share prefers negotiated fees for the infrastructure use and less tariffs set at a national level or set at the EU level. Again, I think it reflects a little bit of reluctance to have too much state interventions or in the market. Regarding now standards or the need for standards for CO2 transport and infrastructure, there were clear answers that there are standards needed for temperature, for purity of CO2,
Una cosa
pressure of
che
CO2. Or about 10% had no opinion on that. But it's clear again, standards are needed, especially on these 3 points. There are, of course, a lot of factors limiting the CCS deployment and development. And they were asked to indicate which are the key barriers. And they are manifold again, but a lack of infrastructure is among the most pressing topics or issues. Also, the lack of a viable business models is also missing. Other key objectives or key barriers are, for example, public acceptance, but also the coordination challenge of failures that should be simultaneously investments in carbon capture, transport, and storage. And of course, the missing profitability or the financing gap, uncertainty, missing regulation, technical issues, and such as scaling up. a lot of in the open text replies. When they were asked what the areas of policy options are that CCS development could be supported, there were several answers. One were addressing more the societal and political acceptance. So they wish that at the society and at the political level, this technology become more accepted or better accepted, and that there's an awareness of the technology that these are needed. Regarding the funding and the financing gap, most of them, or many of them, support financial measures at a key level for transport and storage, but also for capture, for the full value chain, of course, and for innovation and research. So technology still needs to develop further. Even there is support is suggested. The question whether there should be a target set by the Commission has been answered by yes. 86% support targets for storage. Regarding the cooperation of the private and public sector, the question was, is it important? If yes, where? And it is important, they're saying, in the field of risk sharing of long-term storage. So long-term storage is a risk. They wish to get a kind of get support or risk mitigation measures. Another support would be co-investments in transport and storage activities. So these are the areas where maybe uncertainties are also very high. And these have been the topics regarding the challenges and the policies. And at the end of the questionnaire was a question asking whether the stakeholders have been satisfied with their involvement in different processes, such as the carbon roadmaps, elaboration or the identification of hard-to-abate sectors in the NSCPs. And most of them, or many of them, not most, many of them were satisfied, but more than 1/3 did not reply on this question. So we don't know what the majority, what the opinion of the majority is on the subject. Now I come to the summary of the papers, the feedback of the papers. Again, we have here a distribution by country of origin. There's the same pattern. Again, Belgium is highly presented in that, followed by Germany. So it's a kind of imbalance as well, but that's not surprising. And I forgot to mention that we also get submissions from other countries outside the European Commission. They are included here as well. Again, the topics are a little bit structured according to the relevance, the role, and the challenges. Regarding the relevance for the EU climate goals of this technology, there's a general acknowledgement that CCS is necessary to achieve the net zero emissions in 2050. The focus should be on hard-to-abate sectors. But also they acknowledge that industrial carbon removals could be used to address residual emissions. Some express their concern that the use of CCS and carbon removal might divert resources from investment in more deployment-ready mitigation options. So industrial carbon management should be done in a way that it does not incentivize further investment in fossil fuel power use or bioenergy production. That was a concern that has been expressed. Regarding the role of CCU achievement climate target is more contested than that of CCS, and this is because, or partially due to the different pathways or storage timelines of CCU. And again, a point was that the use of CCU or carbon as a feedstock should be thought together with the ambition to to achieve a circular have a circular economy. So this somehow goes together and maybe serves two objectives. Many find that a balance between this technology is needed. That means there's a certain technology neutrality they like to have. Also, CCS is mentioned the most. CCU is equally important, they say, and carbon removal as well. Some submissions were a little bit cautious about BECCS. Regarding the role of the European Commission, there are two main areas. They see the Commission to be active or should be active. One is the elaboration or development of a coherent regulatory framework at the EU level and member state level, and the other one is taking a more coordinating role. Regarding the regulatory framework, this should also include, and that has popped up several times, definitions, clear definitions of CCS, CCU, carbon removal, and also clarity on what do we mean with permanent storage under CCU. Further, it should be made clear that some policies really address and focus on emission reductions, others on carbon removals, because they're different in their approach and they have different impacts. And some also suggested to include support mechanisms that reduce risks for developers or uncertainties if they are not addressed to the regulatory framework and the roadmaps and the strategies. Others also suggested to set milestone targets or storage targets for 2040 and 2050 beyond the existing targets there. Another point was that clarity on the functioning of the carbon capture market is important. So they need clear rules. They need to know what exactly is included in that market. So is it a permanent carbon removal market, or is it a market more linked to the EU ETS, or there are two different markets? It's not clear, and it should be made clear how this market works and how it is linked to the existing EU ETS market. They also asked not to exclude any kind of transport modes. It should be open for all modes, and just the EC should ensure interoperability. In general, the Commission should provide guidelines to the member states and ensure a coherent approach in all member states, but still give them a kind of flexibility and not kind of, for example, front runners. So they need a guide, but enough space for flexibility and new approaches. Regarding the coordination, they suggest that there should be a pan-European infrastructure development coordination for CO2 transport and storage. And they also suggested to have a European Alliance for Industrial Carbon Management, which could be initiated or somehow coordinated by the EC. Regarding the main challenges and policy options, that's somehow a summary or reiteration of what has been said already before. Public perception and acceptance is key. It's important. Many brought that up also in the open text comments. It is necessary to have a coherent policy and regulatory framework in a timely manner, and that's important, in time, not too delayed. And this also implies consistent and timely permitting processes along the entire value chain, from capture, transport to storage. And also some concern were expressed about the availability of skilled and educated persons and there's a need of qualification programs seen. So this might be another activity the EC could at least foster. Overall, there's a lack of a viable business model, of different models along the value chain. because public acceptance is not yet that strong, or awareness is not strong, regulatory framework or policies are still in process of being elaborated, etc. But also because there is a financing gap. It's not profitable, it's too expensive. Therefore, they suggest to include financial supports to increase certainty and to increase somehow, or at least have no losses, but a little threshold of profitability and return. So they suggested, for example, carbon contracts for difference, or some state aid, public procurement to push this technology in the market, or CO2 removal banks. These are the results from the questionnaire and the papers, statements the stakeholders have submitted. And now I think we come to the section questions and answers. So.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Even with all the technical flaws, this was a very clear presentation. And let's be very clear about this. This is not us telling what we think. This is what we captured from the European audience. And just for a few comments, I've not been doing my email. I've been chatting online. So if you saw me typing, I was chatting online with people. They were asking if the slides would be shared. The slides are all part of the final report. The final report will be published by the Commission after completion, and then you can see all the figures and all the graphs in there. There is one part missing for the final report, and that's the feedback from this meeting. So that's why we don't have a final report yet. We're now coming to you. It's your opportunity, both online and in the room, to say where you want to add a bit more color to your opinions that you probably have already given. We do it in the same 3 blocks that we used before in the presentation. Do we need it? Do we want it? And where? And so the practical first. Then, what is the role for the Commission? And last is, what is the role for the European Commission? So, sorry, the second is, what's the role for the European Commission? And then last is, what are the barriers that we have to overcome altogether? So that is a little bit what we're trying to do. And if you want the floor, raise your hand. If I give you the floor, please tell who you are, what your affiliation is, and then you can tell us everything you want to tell us. So, who's first? Do we need it? Do we want it? The majority was clear, but of course, there's not always the same background. There was another question online. Some people said, oh, it would be good to see which group answered what. We will try to do that in the report. We couldn't do that on screen. It's taking too much detail, but in the report you will, at the most important question, see which group was saying what. So that does indeed give a bit more clarity. First hand over the left, please.
Thank you. I'm Nina from Bologna, Europa. And I wanted to ask a question on the analysis of the results, which I think best relates to do we need it or to what extent we need it. When we were answering the consultation, one of the questions that we were asked by several different stakeholders was how to view the different answer options, how to provide nuance or the necessary nuance.
Thank you for that. Online, they can't hear your question, so I will have to repeat that very quickly. We are now organizing a mic to try to. Basically, I'm going to resume it, and it will not do justice to what you just all said so subtly. There is quite some normative choices when you're in, and a question is never perfect. So will that be taken into account? The questions were the questions. They were debated before. This is what came out. The answers are the answers, and that's what we're going to analyze. We cannot put anything more information into it that we have at this moment. And yes, any question, any questionnaire is not perfect, and so we'll have to do with what we got back from from you, and we're not going to tweak it because we think that it should be or would be. This is what it is. Otherwise, we are starting to make interpretations, and that's not what we want. We want your information to get back in there. We're going to try it now with a microphone, and we're going to see if that microphone is being heard online as well. Go ahead.
Let this be a test. My name is Erwin Cornelis from ECOS. Am I coming through online? Can someone online please confirm that they can hear me? Okay, thank you very much. This is one test that we pass. So I'm ECOS Environmental Coalition and Standards and Environmental NGO, so I'm also very much looking forward to the more detailed responses and different categories of responses. So great, thank you for highlighting this. In general, we would like to express our, let's say, reservation concerning industrial carbon management, because we consider it as a end-of-pipe technology, and we would like to express our concerns that it deviates the attention from what we believe should be the first action by the industry to curb down the greenhouse gas emissions, and is looking first at other products and solutions to cement and steel and plastics. More recycling, and also moving away from the current processes and having a transformation within the industry to other processes as a prime mean to reduce the carbon emissions. So that's what we believe. So,
thank you. I think it's a clear position. It has been reflected by several people that CCS should not take away our attention from working at the source as well. I think that's basically, and that has been repeated several times, and that will come back in the report. But thank you for emphasizing that once more. I see a question on the left.
Yeah, thank you. Matthias Held from UPM. UPM is a big forest-based industry company from Finland. We also contributed to this, to the contribution, and we also made a white paper out of it, even better than the first one. And I wanted to answer to your threefold question. So, is it really needed? And in our
let's start with the first one. The others will come later. Otherwise, it's too.
Yeah. No, it is extremely needed. I think one of the best things here is a graph on the back, which really shows the urgency of the deployment of the technique. And when we are looking at the IPCC statistics, we already need 1.2 gigatons of removed carbon emissions in 6 years. So that's quite an astonishing time. And we really need also time to ramp up those investments. We're currently building one biorefinery in Germany, so probably the same scale of what is then needed for a bio-CCS installation. And we took, let's say, 10 years for preparing, let's say, the investment and everything. And this is also the time scale we need here. So it's really the urgency we are having here. Getting a real straightforward framework by the Commission to give companies the possibility to invest. And this is also something which has been raised in the feedback. So reliability and investability, these are really the core issues here we need to get this market running. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I think that is indeed, especially from the industry, this has been raised over and over again. Give us a clear framework with a long-term horizon so that we don't have to doubt whether it's going to be worthwhile investing. But I also heard your first comment saying that we can't do without it. The IPCC, at least, is screaming for negative emissions, and therefore you're fully right. That's what many people think. That's what most people answered us as well. But thank you for that additional feedback. Anyone else in the room? Over there first, and then to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Aver Pernod from Clean Air Task Force. We're also an environmental NGO. First of all, I'd like to congratulate on this strategy that has been called and is long overdue. I think it's critical that we've wasted so many years, in fact a decade, on not acting on CCS fast enough. My question is actually regarding sort of storage developments in Europe, and one thing that is really concerning at the moment is that it's pretty much all happening in the North Sea. And that's quite a problem because there's been this sort of perception that, we can just capture CO2 from a cement plant in Spain and just send it to Norway. That will never work out economically, and it will just lead to the death of industries who are not located in the North Sea region. My question is related to the sort of setting of targets, and how could the Commission best address this imbalance between the different regions inside Europe? We want to see capacity grow inside Europe. I think that's critical to reach our climate goals. But we need to see this built across Europe to ensure that there's fair access to infrastructure and that this doesn't become an oligopoly held in the North Sea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a fair point that first that we have wasted a lot of time. Being in this domain since 2005, I know that we're all hoping around 2008, 2009 for a first wave, but then the ETS crashed under the financial crisis. We all know that, and we had to wait for the ETS to get real teeth again, for everybody to see the financial possibilities also with CCS. But we have wasted a lot of time, and that's what you said, and that will be noted. About the targets, I was happy to see in the feedback that there was more than we had expected, also enthusiast comments coming from non-North Sea countries. Italy, Spain, Romania. There is more CCS going on and more plans than I think meets the eye immediately. And I think that target setting, and that's I think what your call is, target setting for the Commission could help a lot to make that more clear. So, message noted. I shouldn't answer too much. It's not me answering. It's the Commission who is going to give you all the answers. Just me reflecting a little bit on it and just trying to get the center out of your comments. I'm not giving any answers because that's not my position. Oh, over here first. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I'm Elena from ERCST, a Brussels-based think tank. And I have a question, and then I would like also to reply to your question on whether it is needed. My first question would be, how are responses from countries outside the EU weighted into the consultation and also in the strategy of the Commission? And instead, my reply to your question would be that actually I don't think it makes sense to still be here discussing on whether it is needed or not, because actually, besides being a solution for decarbonization, etc., the EU is actually committed already to deploying this technology by signing the Paris Agreement and committing to achieving net zero targets by 2050. So I'm a bit surprised that we are still here discussing this question. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope that the inputs will satisfy you and that you will get what you need. We take two more questions here, then I go online. I have quite a lot of online, and then we move also with the mic to the other side of the room. But two more questions here.
Thank you very much. My name is James Cogan. I work with an Irish group called Clonbio. We have a large carbon capture and support project ready to go. We've got the finance, we have the carbon, we can capture cheaply, and we have a place to store it. It's a removals project. We have a very similar, virtually identical project available to us in the USA, and we're going to do the US one, and we're not going to do the Europe one. And I report to the board on what are our prospects for doing a CCS project in Europe, and should we have it on our investment program? And my response to them right now is absolutely not. We can't consider it. There is no case for it. And that is something we'd like to see change, but I can't waste anybody's time in my company saying we should actually seriously go ahead with this project, or even do the preliminaries of going ahead with this project. And there are quite a number of other companies around Europe in a similar condition to us that have the finance, they have the carbon, they have the storage. Clearly lots of work done to make them happen, but what's missing is either an obligation on somehow an obligation on the system as a whole in Europe for it to happen, or a financial incentive for it to happen. Thank you.
That's quite a harsh statement, but it works in the US, it doesn't work in Europe. And you're basically saying the business case doesn't work out. Give us an obligation, give us a stronger price support, then it could work. I think DG Klima and DG Energy are listening to this, but we'll see.
Thank you. Walter Selen from the environmental NGO Carbon Gap, an advocate for evidence-based carbon removal in Europe. I would first of all like to very much welcome that the Commission is coming forward with a strategy. It's very well needed, and we're very happy to see that removal will be covered as well under that strategy. Second, I would like to build on what was said just before and advocate for clear deployment incentives, i.e. market creating policies to be considered as part of the forthcoming strategy, which could look at ensuring price stability, could look at committing to buying a certain volume of removal, and or looking at decreasing the cost over time. So you can have various different approaches, procurement programs, pilot funds, purchase facility. I think we need to be really concrete in actually making some sort of case for removal in Europe if we want to take the lead on this globally.
Yeah, thank you. And some sort of case for me is even too weak. We need to make a strong case, otherwise it's not going to happen. But that's what they're going to do in the strategy, I think. Let me go to some of the questions we got online, and then I move to the other side of the room. I got a question for the Commission from Jonathan Kutuli. Can you please confirm if the strategy will be officially published and presented end of November at the next CCS Forum meeting? I don't know that. Can you confirm that? They cannot confirm that. So the aim is the end of the year. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Okay.
Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work, that one.
Yeah, I have to take over. This is theme of the day, technology malfunction.
Hello.
So basically, during the hearings, it has been confirmed that the strategy will now move to the first quarter of next year. So will be now published together with the climate 2040 climate target plan.
Okay, but I didn't get it, so maybe the audience didn't get it either. Will there by the end of this year be a strategy ready? No.
No, that's what Chris just said. Executive Vice
Will be
President.
published in the first quarter of 2020.
First quarter, okay, sorry, I didn't get that. First quarter of next year, okay. Another comment online from Gunilla Karlsson from Sweden. She's representing the waste sector, saying we have biogenic waste, we have fossil waste, and we need to have answers, and we need them quickly. For CCS on waste is very important. So I think it's a cry to have the waste sector more included, and we saw it also in the answers coming out of all the inquiries that we were analyzing, that there is a lot of intention for waste incineration, even when people say we need more circular, we have to burn less, but there will be a part that we need to burn, and if we burn, we need CCS on the waste incineration. I think that's the overall message, Barbara, correct, that came out of the analysis. Then I have a question also on the waste sector. How can DG Energy make sure that, or the Commission in general, that CCS on the waste will not negatively cut into other policies of the Commission, like more circular and so on? I think it's a point of attention. We'll take it as a comment, as a point of attention that in the strategy will be addressed. Then we have a question, and that's the last one, and then I go back to the room again. CCS and CCU will share the same infrastructure. There's need to develop rules for the quality of the CO and for the transfer of carbon credits. Also to take into account in the strategy the way we are going to share. Okay. That's the last one from online now, and then I go back to the room.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tomasz Prost, we represent Orlen Company from Poland. First of all, thank you very much for the very interesting presentation. A lot of problems have been raised at that material. We will be short. We identify that the public awareness, public acceptance is very important problem in the way of development of CCS investments. And our question is that the Commission has any opinion, any way of the address this problem, the public awareness at the strategy document or other separate document which will be prepared in the nearest future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that comment. It's clear throughout the answers that everybody is asking for a very clear communication strategy from the Commission. So I suppose that the Commission will take that seriously into account, because we all know that without public support you do nothing. So that will be absolutely a part of the new strategy. Question here in the middle.
David Bonson, I represent Eurocol, the European Association for Coal and Lignite. This is, well, also a feedback to the feedback, so to say, that actually the results seem to paint a slightly, well, a very welcoming departure from what we often hear in public discussions, where the focus is mainly on how to abate sectors. But the feedback, the questionnaire, seems to show clearly that there's also appetite to include the power sector, the power and heat sector. So that's basically, I just want to reaffirm that we need a plan B and C for the power sector. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is indeed one of the things where the opinions that we got back are splitting a little bit, and you know that. But it's taken well into consideration. We can't change everything overnight, so we have to see, and that's for the Commission also to choose a strategy on how to deal with the existing coal and lignite-fired power plants. And from the feedback, I can say for me personally, there was a higher than I had expected level of people saying we need the whole power sector to be included. So it's there was quite some feedback on this as well. There's one in the back of the room.
Thank you. Hanna Oinen from Carboculture, a biochar carbon removal. operator. I have a question about the technology neutral approach. There seemed to be a consensus in the questionnaire that there's a need for a more technology neutral approach when it comes to all technologies, CCS, CCU, and also industrial carbon removals. I wanted to ask how will the European Commission ensure that there will be this kind of balanced approach between the technologies, for example, with the carbon storage requirements. As we saw in traditional CCS, CCU, there's similar pipelines, as was mentioned, but then when you discuss enhanced rock weathering, biochar, or other industrial carbon removal technologies, there's no need for such, but then again, there is a great need for supporting these applications where the storage site will be, namely enhanced rock weathering and biochar in soils. So how will the European Commission take into account this balanced approach between the industrial carbon removal technologies?
I can't give you that answer. That's up to the Commission, and I don't think they will give that now. That's going to be part of the strategy. What the inquiries showed, that all technologies got attention and got support and got the question from the European audience to be supported. That doesn't mean they're all equal or equally impactful on the climate. So that's typically something that the Commission will have to weigh and bring out in their strategy. I can tell you, because we see that at the moment from the type of work coming from the Commission, that all aspects are being included in getting attention. If that will be equally in terms of money or attention, I can't say, I don't know. That's up to the strategy. And I think I should leave it there, Edith. Yeah, that's for now, that is it. I'm going back to the online questions that we had a few. I got a comment from Fernando Veloso about small-scale CCS chain at a regional scale. Where monitoring of storage is less costly for a small site onshore than big sites offshore. So he is making a comment to not think only on the big offshore fields, but keep onshore in mind as well, as it could be cheaper, it could be smaller scale, it could be closer to the source. Point taken. Then we have a question from Hanna Ojanen. How will the European Commission ensure a balance between not only CCS, CCU and ICR, but also matters within ICR, which will include storage and transportation infrastructure? Well, what I can say is that the Commission has been very active on the part of storage and transportation, seeing how to regulate it, seeing how to stimulate it, so that, and there is, I think, at least one, but maybe even two reports recently published on this. I'm now looking to Chris. Yes, two. So the Commission is having made already quite some steps in this field, but it will be part of the strategy as well, which role the Commission will take in the infrastructure and the storage. A comment from Marta. Taking into the consideration that CCUS must benefit EU industry, I miss a comparison with other jurisdictions outside of the EU. Many of them include simplicity, predictability, and de-risking approach. So I see that as a call to learn from other jurisdictions and take that into account in the strategy. And I think one of the outcomes of the research was that there was interest from other jurisdictions, and the Commission is interested in other jurisdictions. If we can learn, I think the Commission is happy to do that. So, and now answering to Marta, if you have anything more concrete, send it to the Commission. They will try to take that into account. I'm moving for a last one online, and then I move back to the floor. doubling the positive impact, this is from Dirk van Orshoven, doubling the positive impact on climate, skipping fossil CCS, leapfrogging to BECCS. The biomass that is presently consumed in the EU often cause important air pollution. This is not compatible with one of the Green Deal objectives. Can almost existing biomass used, or at least a strictly sustainability part of it, credibly rediverted to a clean CCUS? The climate emergency absolutely calls for this. So I think this is a call to, if we work with BECCS, then make sure it's a clean BECCS and that it's not adding to any other climate air quality problems. That's the way I read this. I'm closing this question now, and we move to the second question. So this was the why and where question. And I would like now to move to the question for the Commission. What is the role for the European Commission? Where do you want the Commission to emphasize their actions in the strategy? I'm going first to the room. The mic goes to the middle.
Thank you very much. Does it work? Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Anaïs, and I'm working for Eurogas, the European association representing the gas industry. As I understood correctly, we cannot ask directly questions to the Commission, so I will shift my question into a comment. What we're seeing in the consultation is that a lot of people are calling for a regulatory framework from the Commission. So our comment would be that we hope that this strategy will be the first step towards the defining of overarching regulatory framework that would provide the legal certainty for the industry to deploy CCUS technologies. So we hope this will be the first step, especially for the next Commission coming. And yeah, that was my comment.
Okay, and it's up to the Commission if they want to answer. But normally in this is the timing in the process where they're collecting opinions, so they will not be too eager to say already the outcomes. That's still uncertain because we first want to collect all your opinions. So it's not that the Commission is not willing to discuss this, it's just it's not the right moment now. Okay, we're going first to the lady on the right, and then we go to you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marta Gostinska. I work for Shell.
Can you speak a bit louder, please?
Yes, of course. Marta, I work for Shell. I just wanted to kind of touch base about, it's similar to what my colleague has said already, but that the Commission is working on the industrial carbon management strategy, which I'm sure we're all very happy to see. It's that this is going to come Q1 2024 now. But we also know that Germany is working on a similar strategy, similar approach as we speak. France has already announced that as well. So my comment or question is for the Commission to make sure that this is an overarching strategy that's also consistent with the strategies that are developed on the country level.
Yeah, thank you for that. Moving over there.
Erwin Cornelis of ECOS Environmental Coalition and Standards, and as the name of our institute suggests, we care about standards, and allow me to hook in this. And I think that what matters foremost is to have a standard on the effectiveness of the carbon capture installation. How effective will that be? Because we know it is not 100%. And I think that it's one of the things that we should care of first. How effective is this installation? Is my microphone?
Yes, you're on. Okay. It's clear. Yes. Thank you.
And another aspect, if I make, as I have the floor, is an integrated planning. I think it's also important because now at this time we are discussing the gas directive. And there is an opportunity within the gas directive to have an integrated planning on the gas infrastructure, and gas is natural gas and hydrogen infrastructure, but also electricity infrastructure, district heating, so the integrated planning of the energy infrastructures. here this is not an infrastructure, and I think that having an integrated planning is very crucial. Thank you.
Okay, I take 2 points here. One is you're saying Commission not only monitor that there is CCS, but also that it's efficient CCS. And secondly, make sure you get a planning indication for the infrastructure, but because that's what's happening in gas and electricity, and you need to do the same for CO2 infrastructure.
Thank you. Aymeric Mann from Sandbag, a climate policy think tank. Hi there. Just want to give support to Owen's answer from ECOS. We are also very concerned, and we'd rather advocate for a cautious approach when it comes to CCS, CCU, and CDR. As you clearly mentioned at the very start of this presentation, the respondents of this consultation show a clear interest or concerns. I wanted to insist on this. And not all of civil society is represented, and it's probably mostly industry representatives. So we're also calling for a clear indication of which group of participants responded to the survey and how, and to see this in the results. Also wanted to add another point about the fact we are concerned about potential plans to include carbon removals in the ETS. And just to say that for now we have a tendency against that potential inclusion. Thank you.
Okay, to reflect on that last point, I think that's not on the table so far. So it's good to be cautious, but it's also something that the Commission is very, very aware about. That so it's not. There's a lot of people calling cautiousness for that. The first one, that's of course your point of view, and that's if I look at the overall feedback we got, I can only say that there were more people pushing for go ahead and go faster than for cautious. But your point is clear and will be noted. One more, 2 more on the left, and then I go online. 3. Okay. Lady first.
Hello. First of all, thanks a lot for organizing this workshop. It's very much appreciated. I represent European Energy, which is a Danish developer of renewable energy and also a producer of e-fuels for shipping and the plastic industry, among other things. I think I want to emphasize what was already said. We need a regulatory framework that supports both CCU and CCS. Maybe this comment is more on the first question. I didn't get the chance to comment there. But I want to highlight that, seen from our side, it's very important that this strategy becomes a CCUS strategy, including both CCS and CCU. Because the CCU technologies, especially e-fuels, are necessary to reach climate neutrality in many hard-to-abate sectors that are dependent on carbon feedstock or can't be electrified directly. This could be long-distance aviation and shipping. However, we of course acknowledge the need for negative emissions in the current state of climate emergency, but we highly encourage the Commission to apply a technology-neutral approach when developing this strategy. And yeah, in that regards, I also want to say that we think that the market conditions should, and the CO2 price should determine whether the CO2 is stored or utilized. If we play with one technology, this would lead to an inappropriate distortion of the CO2 market, which is not even established yet. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
what I want to say.
A clear call to include e-fuels and CCU in the strategy. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Brutin. I work for SEM Bureau, the Association of the European Cement Industry. It's a very timely event today, and indeed, you know, from our sector, I can report that we see an increasing number of CCUS investments, some of these being actually supported by the ETS Innovation Fund, so we're obviously very, very grateful.
Can you speak a bit louder?
Sure.
Online they have
sure. So we're very grateful for the support of the European Commission for this. When it comes to the strategy and the role of the Commission, there were 2 points I wanted to raise. Firstly, the issue of access to CO2 transport and storage infrastructure is going to become increasingly important. I wanted to check whether this would be part of the strategy. I think on our side we need some transparent and fair market conditions when basically accessing CO2 storage site and CO2 transport. That's really important. The second thing I wanted to focus on is CCU. I agree it's important. In our case, we will need it because some cement plants are landlocked with no easy access to CO2 storage. And there, you know, I hope the Commission colleagues will forgive me for this, but I think CCU is a bit being regulated piecemeal. You know, there's a big chunk in the ETS directives, and suddenly we have the RFNBO delegated act telling us basically you can't use industrial CO2 past 2040. It's a bit, you know, I think we need a bigger framework because in some cases, some CCU projects in our sector were ready to go, and then suddenly, because of the delegated act on RFNBO, they had actually to stop. So, you know, our call would be for a coherent, really, strategy on CCU. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's, I hope you've written this down as well, because this is a very relevant point on how the ETS is functioning for your sector. And indeed, being landlocked does always give a little bit more challenges. We take one more question in the room, then I go online.
Thank you. Heikki Lindfors, Finnish Energy Industries. Energy production companies in my country don't intend to capture fossil carbon. We intend to stop using it altogether. I have 3 points about this report, but I'll be concise, don't worry. First, I would like the Commission to notice in the analysis of the report, where did the comments that are critical for bio-CCS come from? Are those answers from the countries which have primary production of biomass as well as bioindustry? Or are they more like at the consumption countries? Second point, there is definitely need for market. This cannot be done by incentives only. And the market should definitely be based or strongly linked to ETS. To have another market mechanism or any kind of new goals is starting to be counterproductive. There is too many goals already in EU climate policy, and we should focus on emissions. And the third point being, regarding the fossil fuels, we need to keep in mind that CCS is not 100% efficient. So when capturing fossil carbon, there should be noted that both the fossil origin as well as the life cycle emissions need to be accounted for, even if the carbon is captured from the end of the chimney. Thank you.
Thank you. 3 clear points. To start with the first one, I do not know, honestly, at this point, whether we have analyzed that in our report, but I'm happy to ask my people to see if for BECS they can make this extra analysis. I think I can give it on the top of my head, and I think you know that as well, but I think it's fair, it's a fair question, so we will see if we can see in the questions on BECS where the answers, how they are divided over the different groups or countries. Second, on the ETS, a strong signal, keep the ETS as the main driver, clear. And thirdly, we know CCS is not 100%, so there is also some remaining emissions, and be clear what you do with that. Okay, all points clear? We'll take them into account, and the Commission will take them into account in the strategy. We'll come back to the room. I now move back online. I have here, and that refers a little bit to additional emissions, a question: will the strategy address EOR as well, and how will that the carbon emissions then will be taken by the Commission? So no answer, but I think it's it's a fair question. EOR is economically more interesting way of CCS, but it brings up a lot of new carbons. So how you're going to deal with that in your strategy? That's the question. No answer, Chris. And other question is, How will the Commission ensure the establishment of, sorry, this is from Thomas Sylvest at Danish Shipping. How will the Commission ensure the establishment of a single market for the multimodal transport of carbon across borders without having to endure a patchwork of bilateral agreements between the member states? The Commission needs to secure the ratification of international CO2 transport. I think this refers to the London Protocol, and those of you who are longer into this business know that at this moment, at an international level, this is still a hurdle. I would say the northwestern countries have overcome it with bilateral agreements, which is not great, and this is a cry to the Commission to make this happen on a wider scale so that we don't depend on bilateral agreements under the London Protocol. That's the way I read it. Noted. Then a question from Jonathan Coutuli, Heidelberg Materials. A timely deployment of CCU, CCS, ICR technology will require significant investment decisions in the years to come, and a robust European industrial policy is very much needed. Despite the array of existing EU funding tools, such as the Innovation Fund, InvestEU, Horizon, etc., there is an urgent need for a more coordinated approach to streamline funding specifically aimed at clean tech manufacturing. Is the Commission planning to significantly increase the level of EU funding available to boost these technologies? I think a question that will go without an answer, but it's a clear cry for an investment impulse from the Commission for clean manufacturing. I'm taking another one here, then I'm going to the room once more. Siegfried Kiss from Austria. CCUS carbon capture and intermediate storage is very necessary for landlocked countries with only small possibilities for long-term sequestration in reservoirs. And he's speaking of, or she, CCIS, I don't know what that means, is also very needed to provide future constant feedstock flows for hydrogen and carbon, for synthetic chemicals production processes. How is this evaluated in the strategy? I think this will be integrated in the strategy. There must be something about hydrogen production, I assume, and about the combination of hydrogen with carbon for e-fuels. I think that will. I'm now looking at Chris. Is that going to be mentioned in the? You don't have to give the answer, but just saying, will it be addressed?
Well, I think I'm comfortable with handing out the mic, and I would be happy with doing it to the end of the meeting. But I think it's fair to say that I think it's on.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say that all the issues that you have been mentioning and questions and online in the room, like, to be honest, there has been no issue that we don't consider. Like, we have all these well mapped, but we cannot say yes or no, slightly more to the left, slightly more to the right, because we are still drafting. We have mapped these issues. We know them well. For some of them, we are, more advanced in thinking. For some of them, less so. But it's not that we don't want to answer, don't want to talk to you. It's just that we are just assembling your points of views, and if something's was going to strike us today, then we'll take the floor. But so far, all is well mapped, and thank you for all the input.
There is more to come. You're not ready yet. There's more to come, and we are going to write it all down. Thank you, Chris.
And we hope that organizing this on Friday afternoon, there will be less of these questions.
We have an interesting question here. Will the strategy also integrate farming or only industry for CO2 reductions? I think that in the questions, agriculture was not included. That does not mean that the Commission is not looking at agriculture in other ways, especially in the field of carbon removals. There are ongoing projects there, but I think for the CCS, CCU strategy, there will be maybe in the removals, but you will not have a lot on, it's not expected that there will be a lot on agriculture there. A question from Elizabeth Harding, NEP. The transportation and storage of CO2 and particularly challenging for CDR companies operating across border, especially those outside the EU. Moreover, the administrative burden can often be substantial and costly. In the strategy, will the European Commission look to address these issues and work towards harmonizing the rules across member states? I think that was a question, and it was answered by a vast majority. Please, Commission, make sure it becomes simple, harmonized between member states. So I hope and I assume that there will be some answer to that question. I'm going back to the room. I have 1, 2. First here. A mic coming from the right side.
Thank you so much. So my name is Sissel Lindsay. I come from a company called ExpoCrowd. So, like this?
Yeah, really
All
talk
right.
loud, otherwise the audience online cannot hear you.
Sissel Lindsay. I'm coming from a company called ExpoCrowd, and I'm leading a team of subsurface experts. So, as I understand it, then much of the work done is based on the assumption that we have endless storage capacity available for our ambitions. But as a geologist who has worked a long time evaluating these CO2 storage locations and know how complex this can be, I could worry that we are underestimating an aspect which could impact both timelines, commerciality, and infrastructure planning. Have you considered this a risk?
The question, is there enough storage and is there enough storage in time available, is a very sound and relevant one, and will be taken normally into account because it's one of the things that all the companies are talking to with each other and with the Commission. So, but thank you for this signal not to be over-optimistic.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Isaiah. I'm working for the European Waste Management Association. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a very nice activity for a Friday afternoon. So we are all happy to be here. And I just wanted to come back a bit to some of the comments that were raised, especially in the beginning where it was mentioned a possible contradiction between the objectives or the strategy and the circular economy in the EU. And I just would like to raise that we do not agree at all with this statement because we have recycling targets that are to be met and that will not be impeded by this strategy. In fact, we also have seen in the early warning report results that it's precisely those countries that have a well-developed waste-to-energy system that are also meeting the targets and even exceeding the recycling targets. And here it's really our call to pay attention to this complementarity and to the importance of integrated waste management systems. We have different technologies, different processes, and they all have a place. Also, we need to have a treatment for residual waste, and here the decarbonization of the sector is very important, and this is why the strategy is also very important for us. Here I also would like to adhere to the support to CCU, because also here we have seen in the results, and it was presented today, that the application of the CO2 in long-lasting products is a very supporting option. It's also something our companies are investing in. And again, here we see the link and the complementarity with decarbonization of the sector and the circular economy. And finally, I would also like to come back to the concerns on BECS. And this is something we have actually also discussed internally in the questionnaire, because we miss a distinction here when, we are missing actually the distinction when it's waste or biomass coming from waste and when it's not. And here I would also like to raised this point that when you're assessing this further, it would be very good to make this differentiation.
Thank you for that. And interesting comment you say, coming from the waste industry, we don't see it as competing, we see it as additional, and a call also not to forget on CCU, because that, to put the CO2 in valuable, long life products could also be interesting for your company. That's taken into account. On the left.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Ennio Prizzi from Bioenergy Europe, the European Association for the Solid Bioenergy Industry. Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity to provide with our feedback and opinions. Well, glad to see the stakeholders actually recognize bioenergy and so BECCS as an industrial carbon removal technology that has to be prioritized. So the question now is how this will be addressed by the European Commission in the strategy. If the European Commission cannot answer today, I will provide like 3 comments. First of all, we should be aware that we should minimize administrative burdens for operators through harmonization with existing framework for the production, sustainable production of bioenergy, such as the Renewable Energy Directive. We also already discussed about the importance of target for storage. We need target also for BECCS, setting milestone years like for 2030, 2040, and 2050. And this target should be also specified per member states. Also, we need policy support for the growth of the BECCS industry in Europe. We can think about, for example, also long-term contract or carbon, or like a carbon purchase agreement to actually unlock the private investments for BECCS. And last comments also, we would like to have more clarity in the next strategy for the possible interlink in the future between the carbon credits and the EU ETS. I know that this is something that the DG Clima will assess by July 2026, but will be very useful to understand the way before that deadline. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments taken and will be included. I'm going online. No, one more in the far back of the room, in the corner, and then I go back online before moving to the last part.
Hello, good afternoon.
Can you really speak up loud with your mic?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you. My name is Joanna Cruz. I'm the Secretariat of CCS Europe. We are an advocacy campaign committed to the raising awareness about the need for deployment of CCS technologies. First of all, thank you for the presentation of the results. We are very happy that you've mentioned that we've been lazy for the last 12 years, but we were happy that at least there's a broader recognition on the need of CCS backed up by the IPCC and as well as the International Energy Agency. One of the areas identified was as a barrier for the deployment of CCS was the lack of long-term strategies. We see the Commission being able to play a role in this area. We have currently the national climate and energy plans are currently being considered by the European Commission, and there are dialogues taking place at the national level, and we see that CCS should be part of these dialogues, and we should be asking member states, actually they will become climate neutral by 2050, and how industry will be able to contribute to those objectives. Additionally, recently, the President of the Commission announced the Clean Energy Transition Dialogues. This is also an opportunity to really encourage CCS to be part of the debate at the higher level, at the political level. What we see currently with the Net Zero Industry Act negotiations is that sometimes there's a really lack of awareness of what is CCS and the need, and its needs at the industrial level. So it's really important to raise the topic at the highest level possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A call for a strong strategy and alignment with the NCEPs. Just a bit of history, if I may, that The NCAPs are originating from a discussion on CCS, actually. We were, when we did the evaluation of the directive for the first time, there was this question, why do all these countries not see that it might become more relevant for their industry? Countries, for instance, like Germany was quite hesitating on CCS. And then the Commission decided to ask everybody to make an NCAP. How are you going to be carbon neutral? And then all of a sudden you see that that has an impact, and it has, because it's not that easy to do it without CCS. So thank you for that comment. I'm going online now, and for all the comments, please speak very loud. People online have a hard time following us. From Fernanda Veloso, how will the EC assist member states to evaluate permitting requests for storage sites? Many of the member states' authorities prefer to refuse a permit for storage than to take a deep evaluation of risks and benefits. Could we expect a kind of technical support in the evaluation of permitting issues? That's an interesting thing. That will be, people, I think they will look at it, how and if this will be included in the strategy. I can say how it is for now. It's, at this moment, it's a national permitting, which is then double-checked by the Commission. That's the current state of affairs. Okay, then I have a question from Severin Sindercera. Industry, technology and investment in the lands of indigenous people have the big negative impact on indigenous people's living conditions. Because of the food system resilience relative to our values, economic conditions, and also affected. How will you manage these for addressing these issues? I think that that's maybe a little bit out of scope, I don't know, but up to the Commission to see if they can integrate this one. Then from Marcus Sebastian Hohle, how will carbon removals from waste to energy be addressed in the strategy? I think that has been discussed now several times, and it will be probably addressed as it has been noted by many people. Looking more here online, there's a question on direct air capture and how that will be involved in the strategy, and the combination of direct air capture with e-fuels. I think that's something that point taken, and we'll see if and how it can be included. Can it be assured that a strategy will be well balanced equally between CCS, CCU, and CDR, addressing both the challenges and the barriers for all? I think that's what we're doing here right now today and in this call, trying to gather all these inputs. I leave it here now from online, and I want to move to the next question. There's one more on this question. One more question in the back of the room, and then we move to the last bit.
I'm going to do all my steps today.
Thank you very much, Han Neunen from Carboculture. This kind of overlaps a little bit with the last section as well, because I want to comment on something that was mentioned here, but also discuss this major hurdle as well. So biochar carbon removal today represents 87% of all delivered industrial carbon removal today. 87%. It's scalable. It doesn't require geological storage, which of course we also do need, but we have all heard today the challenges and the uncertainties that we have with this scale and speed of geological storage. That doesn't mean that we don't need to do it, but when we are assessing these different methods and when we are assessing, how much the Commission should look at different industrial carbon removal solutions first, I just want to comment and really highlight that it's important to also look at the market signals today and take into consideration these solutions that are actually providing the large majority of the market, instead of skewing the market with and not taking into consideration, for instance, the different requirements for storage and transportation. and really looking at then the potential incentives for finding that storage capacity, for instance, for biochar in soils or biochar in construction. And second point, just with terminology hurdles, we are looking at now CCU, CDR, and also CCS. There are still some questions terminology-wise, for instance, for applying biochar into metallurgy or biochar into construction items, and for instance, specifically for metallurgy, that would not specifically be CDR necessarily at that time. So how will that be included and not sort of overlooked by a potential CCU network? Thank you very much. Still technology neutrality and balanced approach.
And biochar.
And biochar.
And that's a clear message. Thank you. Okay. I have two comments here online that I would like to include in this question still. That's a question from Eleonore, whether the Commission would consider the long-term stewardships or clarifying the long-term stewardships of the stored capture in their strategy. I think that's a relevant question. And yes, I'll leave it with this for online now. We move now to the last part of the three questions. And the last part was, Barbara, if there is anything that you think I'm not representing well, then please correct me and jump in. That I'm no, but the last part is on the barriers and the challenges that needs to be overcome. So what are, and yes, there will be overlap, it's never all completely mutual exclusive. What are the main challenges? What are the main barriers that we have to overcome to make this a success? And what signals do you want to give to the Commission where you feel a real barrier? We had one for Ireland, pretty clear, huh? Not a business case, it's not going to work here. We do it in the US. Is there any other things like that? What are the barriers that you need to overcome? And I'm looking around the room now. All on the left at the end, Chris.
Again. Up the stairs. Do it on purpose.
Luc Houstermans from Yara, the fertilizer company. So we are a first mover in this sector, having the CO2 readily available and even the capacity to transport it. I think one of the hurdles that we face is the different time horizons of the parties along the value chain. We have a certain time horizon which is driven by our own business and the potential that at some point we will switch to renewable energy and not have CO2 anymore, while the storage operators operate along a much longer timeline for their investment and have also different investment conditions. So in that sense, if market regulations or financial support can solve that dichotomy, then we would be very happy.
Okay, a very clear challenge. There is a dichotomy, as you call it, between the business case for the storage operators and for the captures. And these need to be matched in a better way than is happening right now. Clear. Thank you. In the middle of the room, you can fight which mic. The mic from the right is going to win.
Yeah, hello. Lukas Reichenberger from Open Grid Europe. We are a GAS TSO from Germany, and I think it was mentioned in the first presentation at a couple of points, but I think the central points really are de-risking and permitting. So we need some certainty and de-risking, financial de-risking, so our investors are confident to invest in our projects and to give their FIDs. And then we need the possibility to ramp up our projects, to build our infrastructure as fast as possible. And for this, we need certainty in permitting. So I guess if those 2 points are addressed, a lot of other problems could be taken out of the way.
Thank you. And you're now talking as a transport company who wants to invest in transport, correct?
Sure I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, clear. So it's about certainty of investment, de-risking the investment, and making sure that the permitting is organized correctly and in time. On the left side. Yeah, we keep you walking, Chris.
Thank you. Ever Pernod from Clean Air Task Force. There's two main barriers. I think the first was rightly identified by my colleague at Explo Crowd over there about the issue when it comes to storage capacity, that a lot of the estimates in Europe start out from a very high theoretical estimates, then down to sort of basin scale. And there's various different aspects of storage data that are available. A lot of it is privately held or also by geological surveys and is not able to be accessed by people looking to develop storage sites. So my question is, in particular, when it comes to participants in the CCS sector, in particular my friends of the oil and gas industry, will the Commission be considering things like mandates in addition to other forms of policy drivers like incentives in order to, essentially force the market to develop storage capacity? And then the second barrier I think is key is we hear a lot about, different labels, hard to abate, unavoidable emissions, et cetera, and for a lot of these sites, they tend to be quite small, located in rural areas with not really great access to transport, i.e. no one's ever going to build a pipeline to a small cement plant in the middle of nowhere. And yet those are sort of the highest priority when it comes to looking at politically where CCS should be deployed. So will there be sort of mechanisms to ensure that those unavoidable and sort of high priority applications for CCS will actually be met by infrastructure, which will probably need to come first from sort of larger capacities being built around hubs and clusters? So yeah, it'd be just two items I think food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Both related to storage and transport. How to make sure that there is enough storage available. Are you going to force it? Are you going to ask to get the data public? Probably a lot of the national governments have these data, and what is the Commission going to do with that? And then how to deal with the more landlocked, complicated, isolated emitters that also have hard to abate, and how can you include them? Well, one thing I can say for sure, CCS is not going to solve all our problems. So there might be remaining issues, but and this might be one of them, because it all comes with cons and benefits. But it will be addressed by the Commission. Thank you for your comment. I think here on the left. Okay, first here and then there.
Thank you very much. So Marina Kavidosh from the Eurogeo survey. So I'm representing the European Geological Service. And so I wanted to complete what he says about geological data. So of course we need to share more data, and data doesn't have any boundaries between every state. So we need to have some common database data set. And the other thing I want to point out is the use of the subsurface. There is a competition now, so maybe it's something to take into account as well when we are doing such a workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Also a call to coordinate the investigations in storage and where and when we can do it, and to get these data out as soon as possible in a coordinated way. Clear question. Over here. First here, otherwise I'm losing control.
Thank you. Małgosia Rybak from SEPI. We're representing the pulp and paper industry. We've talked a lot extensively today about long-term strategy and long-term outlook on policies, but by the same token, we can talk about policy unpredictability, which is one of the biggest challenges. When we look at our sites, we have the biggest potential for capturing biogenic CO2, which is even higher than for waste-to-energy plants. And all of a sudden, we're being kicked out from the ETS, the biggest sources of potentially capturing biogenic CO2. And something that Emmanuel already said, that companies are investing in those technologies, and all of a sudden there is a delegated act which phases out the use of industrial captured CO2. So when we look at the communication and at the strategy, what we would like to see is also looking 2 steps forward. So what we saw coming out from the Fit for 55 package and the links of the negative emissions with the ETS, we have a lot of doubts there, to be also taken into account and at least have a vision how this is going to be dealt with.
Clear question, not a clear answer to be given right now, but I think maybe also that later Danielle from DG Klima can a little bit refer on ETS and the relation. Many people have raised this, a predictable policy landscape, and ETS is a big part of your policy landscape, so it should include this predictability. But yes, there is always, ETS also has other dynamics. Let's leave it there.
Thank you. Already spoken, but I want to ask another question. Sorry. Indeed, there are several barriers here that we would like to outline, but I would like to focus on one in particular, which is cross-border transportation. And I was wondering if you received in the feedback the need to encourage member states to ratify the amendment to the London Protocol to allow the transportation of CO2 cross-border, especially for the member state who do not have access to storage sites. Yeah,
that's a clear comment. It was made before. The London Protocol at the moment is not ideal. We received that comment from many times, and the question is whether it's up to the Commission or to the countries to solve this. But at least it will be something that the Commission has to take into account, because it's a hurdle for many member states as well as for many companies. One more in the room.
Good afternoon, it's Antonella Sopranzetti from ExxonMobil. I just wanted, it's not a question, it's just more a remark on the strategy. So we have been asking for this strategy for a long time, so we are really glad that this is on the table now, that you are working on it, so thanks a lot for that. I think it's CCS and CCU, or all the other technologies are really needed. We don't think it is an either-or moment now, it's really an and moment. We need all the technologies to contribute. So my wish is that really when the Commission will work on the communication, it will be with an open mind and not trying to trace the right molecule of CO2 that needs to go underground, but really keep it all the options open and really look at all the industries that need to capture CO2 and transport it and store it. So to me, I really hope I will see this communication like more intended to remove barriers rather than impose obligation, because where we see CCS deployed or like more advanced, like the UK, the US, is not by obliging companies to invest, but is really by making sure that the business model is there, the business case is there, and barriers are removed. So I really hope that all this input will be helpful for that, for the Commission.
Thank you for that comment. We have one more in the room, then I go online, and then I go for a last round of questions and comments, okay?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Justin van Schepen from CEFIC. CEFIC is representing the chemical industry in Europe. Perhaps good to note is that the chemical industry is a molecule manager, so we see an important need to bring together circularity and climate. And I think this strategy is also an opportunity to do that. I second the comments from my colleagues of Semburo and CEPI when it comes to CCU. I hope the Commission will look clearly also into the ETS, where CCU, especially for the chemical industry, is made very difficult with the obligations towards all the way the end of life, the waste management, which makes it very much unworkable. And that is also impacting, when talking about barriers, the business case. Plus, noting also other regions of the world, it's important to take inspiration, for example, from the US IRA, really spur the business case of CCU, CCS, and bring that together. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I make sure that circular and climate meets each other, and make sure that CCU is made possible, and don't be too strict in the ETS, because then you're cutting down on possibilities. That's what I get. In the ETS, it's always balancing a fine line. We want, as much as possible, the ETS be a closed and really good carbon reductions. On the other hand, you want them to enable changes as well. So that's where this problem is originating from. I'm going to online. I've got a question from Björn Fredriksen. Waste to energy CCS might be dependent on both the ETS as well as CDRs, income from negative emissions, through CCU. Strategy would rather consider the linking of those systems and to develop the systems simultaneously. Also the question, what happens with liquidity of the ETS market after 2039 when no more allowances are available? I still the last, so it's about linking CCS, CCU and the CDRs, that you have to see it in one system. And we all know that by 2040, the ETS allowances, so then the question, are negative allowances going to be part of the ETS or not? And there is some philosophic thinking going about that now, but that's not yet being decided, that's not yet being included. So but that's the type of questions that you want an answer in the strategy. We'll see. Then a comment from Eleonore. I have seen that all types of obstacles can be overcome by a public-private cooperation, where from mutual trust, initiatives can be taken and implemented very fast and successful. If you need an example, look at Denmark and their CCS efforts. So address gaps in legislation, finance, permitting by having each other's backs, doing it together. I think if you remember the graph that showed that, I think 85 or 90% of the people said close working together between government and industry is required. And I think this is what is referred to. From Tord Hansen, will the EU Commission be interested in focusing on new carbon capture technology for capturing carbon from fossil fuel power plants? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm sure that we had this question already on the efficiency of the capturing, and that we all know the energy penalty for the capturing is pretty impactful in the business case. So getting the energy cost down for the capturing is both good for the climate and good for the profits. So anyone should be happy about that, but whether that's a task for the Commission, maybe on the innovation side, but that's not my call. I have a last one here from Johannes Rupert. How can this decision for an obligation for cooperation be initiated and fastly developed politically and with support from the Commission in order not to only look at national but also across-border European coordination and for parallel CO2 infrastructure development? That's a little bit the question to the Commission on if it's all free and floating, it's taking too much time. How can we get the things faster, and is it an obligation, or the targets that were mentioned, could that help to achieve that? A last one from Verena Friedel, Austria. Are you also working on a certification framework for solid carbon from pyrolysis, which can either be produced from methane or biomethane to enable other long-term CO2 storage solutions apart from CCS? An open question to the Commission, whether they look at that. I think the Commission will not look at technologies, but will look at the permanence of the storage, both in the CCU and in the CCS technologies. They will look at the overall carbon reduction and the security of the carbon reduction and the longevity of that, those kind of elements will be included. I don't expect, and I'm not talking for myself, that they will highlight specific technologies in the strategy. Those were the last questions online. I'm now going back to the room for a last chance to pour out your heart to us. What do we need? What does the Commission needs to do or not? What is the most relevant for you that you haven't heard yet? And if not, then it's okay as well. Huh? But is there still anything that needs to be said? Same goes for online. Is there still anything that needs to be said? It's quiet here in the room. That means everything has been said, everything has been heard. Maybe more important, everything has been written down, and not all the questions were clear for the people online trying to write down. So you will not find always your name or an exact question. It will be grouped together. But I think all the themes came across the whole spectrum quite well. I'm looking online if there is anything that we do need to address right now. A comment: consider the role of the polluter pays principle in climate mitigation. Fair enough. I think that is partly ETS. More on carbon removal. International cooperation, another call, as mentioned already before. Don't look across the borders. I don't see anything coming. Well, there is a lot coming, but are the DG Regio findings, I think fundings, being considered in the context of the GTP? So the DG Regio has, as we all know, large fundings, and the question is, are they being considered in this strategy? Up to the Commission to see. We've got one more question here in the room.
Thank you. And this is not a question or comment on content, but just to reiterate something that was said at the beginning of the meeting. It's very important to us. So first, I'm Charles Albert Barrett. I work for the Zero Emissions Platform. We advise the Commission on CCS and CCU. And just to point out that it was tough, this questionnaire, we struggled with it because it, as mentioned earlier in the meeting, doesn't allow for all of subtlety that is sometimes required. So some of the questions are extremely complex, technical, and require a lot of nuance. So I think just to mention to the Commission, it's worth going into the details of the papers and everything that was mentioned.
Can you speak louder, please?
Yeah, sorry. Just to mention that it's worth going in the details of the papers because the box ticking exercise doesn't always allow for the message to come across or the right message. So we struggle with that at ZEPS level, just to point that out. Thank you.
Yeah, making such a questionnaire is not easy. For some, it's not detailed enough. For others, it's way too detailed. For some, it's not technical enough. For others, it's way too technical. It's always the Commission is trying to find middle ground. That's why there were open boxes, which you could use to give more information, and was the possibility to send in your papers with your detailed comments. That you did on a large extent. Many of you, when I make a rough guess, that almost everybody in the room did so. So we have received a lot of detailed comments and suggestions that will be taken into account by the Commission. This was the last call, both online and offline. Thanks for all the very valuable comments. We have a short reflection on this from Daniel Kicha from DG Klima. Daniel, please.
Thank you very much, Hans. Thank you, team. It's nice that I have half an hour now, so I can explain and answer all the questions you had. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to keep you from a well-earned weekend. Just the first message is thank you very, very much. And not touching it. First message is thank you very, very much for your contributions to this public consultation. This was a public consultation that ended at the end of August, which I know is always liked by all kinds of stakeholders when we do this in the Commission. So thank you very much indeed also, not just for the answers, but also for the ideas, because as it was just mentioned, there are many, many good papers there, a lot of ideas. So that's the first thing. The second message is, we should maybe have like 3 times the number of questions, because you have so many valid questions also here tonight, this afternoon. So they could have been there, because in a way, what we need to find out is what is the balance of views in Europe about these questions. And that's why we do quantified public consultations with nice graphs that we have. My third point is that it sounds as if we start from scratch. We don't. In practice, maybe we do, but in terms of the rules that we have in Europe, we don't. I just want to remind you that the Commission has a clear position on carbon cycles and on sustainable carbon cycles. There is a communication from 2021 that is worth reading after a discussion like this in particular. We have an agreed reform of our ETS that has many interesting aspects for today's discussion, in particular for CO2 transport. Transport is, as I call it, liberalized. It doesn't need to go through a pipeline. Any means of transport can be used for CO2 transport. We also have the Innovation Fund, and it was mentioned, and this is where we see now how industries approach carbon capture and storage. Because we see in the Innovation Fund projects that industries are not saying, oh, fine, I can capture CO2, that's my prime solution now. No. All other solutions are used before capturing is considered. Capturing is very expensive. It's also uncertain. We talked about this. So that's the last resort for the last emissions that cannot be electrified away or reduced or efficient away. This is very sobering because we see there is a lot of interest in capturing. 20 million tons of CO2 could be captured from all the projects that have applied to the last large-scale call that closed in July, and the applications are from March this year. So that's now, and that's willingness in industry to capture CO2. So that's good. We have also proposed, and the Commission has, when I say we, then it's the Commission has proposed a certification framework for carbon removals that's currently being discussed here in the Brussels bubble. And this is sort of shows you that for us, there is no dichotomy between biogenic CO2 or fossil CO2 because we're working on both sides. And in March, we have proposed also a union storage target, injection capacity, operational injection capacity of 50 million tons by 2030 in order to cope with the demand from industry, but also an obligation for oil and gas companies to actually invest into this technology and make this a market. Also, this is discussed now between the co-legislators, again, a topic that is hotly discussed in the bubble here. There was also a question on permitting. We agree, storage site permitting in particular is no easy thing. Not a lot of authorities have been doing this. Some are. And here we have a whole work stream to reform the guidance documents to the CCS directive, which will be followed up with a series of capacity building workshops for authorities in 2024. So all these things are already established Commission policy. What's not is the industrial carbon management strategy, and there, as my colleague Chris said, we're very busy working on this, and it's very nice to hear from an audience like this all the topics that we need to think about. Now, if I go to the questionnaire results, what strikes me most are 2 things. First, more than 100 SMEs have answered this questionnaire, this public consultation. That shows a depth of these considerations in our economy that is new to me, because normally we see big industrial players looking at these things. We have more than 100 SMEs here. Also, it shows very clearly that we have a very, very knowledgeable community in Europe. Like all those 300 contributions are almost all of them new CCS. So that tells us we have a knowledgeable community that actually even answers questionnaires in summertime. But also, in a way, 89% of everyone who answered think public money should be invested into this. So there might be also quite a few vested interest in those answers, because I think if we now ask our populations, do you really want to spend taxpayers' money in order to build that infrastructure, we might not get a 90% plus answer, I guess. But who knows? I don't know the future. So coming to the last point. So yes, the strategy is confirmed for Q1 next year, and we believe it's very good to look at a strategy like this together with an impact assessment about how we can reach our net neutrality target and what is the intermediate steps that need to be taken between 2030 and 2040 for this. So this will come together. It will be an opportunity, I think, because the strategy has one for sure aspect to it, which is that it will be translated in all languages. And what we really need is national dialogues about these solutions, more consciousness in our populations that this is actually first possible, secondly needed, thirdly has huge impacts for allowing hard-to-abate industries to stay in Europe and to operate in a net zero economy. And in this, at this point, I would say maybe last point, good news. So even though the strategy comes together with the 2040 target, already at the end of this month, you will see an implementation report about the CCS directive. We have to do that every 4 years. The latest one shows you in a short paper where CCS is possible, in which member states, in which it is not, and what's happening in the last couple of months. And so with this, I would say, again, thank you very much for all your contributions and also the questions from today. Stay tuned, read the implementation report when it comes out. Also, this will be available in all languages. And help us to bring this topic to more people who need to know about this in order to build the support, the public awareness, and also the on-the-ground support for projects that are being developed as we speak now. Thank you very much, and have a very nice afternoon and a good weekend.
And thank you very much. I have one little bit stupid comment. First of all, apologies for the technical problems we had in the beginning, and thank you for sticking around. Really appreciate it. I was told that in Brussels all the meetings start too late and end too late. Well, we started a bit later, but we ended at least in time, so that was... but I violated another Brussels rule, and that's an important one. I took pictures of you without asking your permission. They're just for personal use, but if anyone has an objection, please come to me and I will delete them, because that's the way I should have asked you before. Sorry for that. I want to thank you, everybody online, for sticking with us. That was really appreciated. All your comments will be saved. Everything in this chat will be saved and used. We couldn't answer all the questions online. Thank you, everybody here in the room, to take the time to come here, and we'll talk to you. Thank you very much.